everyone, and welcome to another installment of the Orange and Blue View. Next to me here, I guess this way, is Thomas Hall, and of course, I'm here, Ron White, and we are glad to have you guys in here today to talk about our favorite subject, the Denver Broncos. So, Thomas, we do have a lot to discuss today as it relates to the Broncos news. There's been some changes here from a defensive perspective. On the defensive side of the ball, the Broncos hired a new defensive line coach to help us out. And then I know we want to talk about some defensive line options as well. And I know there's also been a center that the Broncos signed as well. So again, a lot to break down for everyone, but we can kind of start to peel that onion back. But I guess Thomas, yeah, what are your thoughts on the? Let's dive in here on the new defensive line coach hiring.
Yeah, it's been a flurry of news. We earlier this morning, nothing was really happening. Then all of a sudden, you got a couple coaches coming in and a new player. So, yeah, I'm excited to see what Jamar Cain can do with the Broncos pass rush. I mean, he's been a defensive line coach in college. He's actually spent about 10 seasons and kind of moving up the ranks, so to speak, from one college to the next, kind of getting to that next, the bigger school and bigger school. And plus he has familiarity with Benito. So that's a plus. So I'm kind of looking forward to it. And we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's an interesting hire kind of at this point in time, but they're going to be going into the draft and he has some, he just came in from LSU. So maybe there's somebody that he likes. So we'll see how that goes. But let's grab a couple comments before we jump into everything. We got a couple people coming in. We got David Yunkin already here this evening. Thank you for spending your Saturday evening with us. We really appreciate it, David. And David says, Broncos country wishing everyone had a great day and great weekend. We got a lineman and some experience with the center. Yeah, and that's a very good topic because they really needed that.
Yes.
And we got Dylan, staff writer, coming in, reminding everybody to hit the like button and share this on all platforms and subscribe if you haven't already. So yeah, thank you for being here with us. Appreciate it. So yeah, definitely do that. And you can follow us. You can follow Ron White at Ron White NFL, and you can follow me at Thomas Hall NFL on Twitter, and we can talk during the week. And you don't have to wait just for this show to interact with us. But we really are happy that you're here. So thank you very much for jumping in. So yeah, what are your thoughts, Ron, on this new coaching staff? Actually, they brought two coaches in today.
Yeah. Yeah. So Jamar Cain, I'm encouraged with Jamar Cain. As you mentioned, he's had multiple stops on the collegiate level. I know he was a player at the Sacramento City College, and he also played for New Mexico State as well. So he has experience as a player. And the stops at Ohio University, Missouri State, Wyoming, North Dakota State, Fresno State, ASU, and more recently Oklahoma. Again, which should help with the Nick Benito trajectory. Again, with Nick Benito, we did see some good things, but there was still a lot left to be desired from Nick Benito. So hopefully, with this hiring, he can bring the best out of Nick Benito because I believe the best is yet to come for Nick Benito. And of course, he's still young as well, Scott. I mean, as well too, right? Thomas, he's 42 years old. So I think it's encouraging that the Broncos made this hire. It can definitely pay some huge dividends. At least we're hoping that it does.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. Nick Benito does need to improve, and I hopefully there's something he can bring to help do that. But I'll say, there was, I think it was more not pass rushing. It was more run stopping for Benito. Yeah. A little bit more, add more moves to his repertoire, get a little stronger, those type of things, which he can do. So hopefully he'll make that leap. Michael Ronquillo's coming in with Facebook stars. Thank you so much, Michael, for the support. And thank you for sharing your Saturday evening with us here at the Orange and Blue View, Michael. And Michael says, good evening, Thomas Hall and Ron White on Orange and Blue View. Go Broncos and buck 'em. Yeah, and don't forget we have Buckham shirts in the merchandise store here at Mile High Huddle. So just go, check that out. Get a Buckham shirt or get a one of the other shows shirts or hats. So we've got some merch out there. So definitely check that out. We also have Michaela Israel coming in saying, "Good evening, guys. Thank you,
Hey,
Michaela, for
Michaela.
being here. Really, really appreciate that you're here." And thank you also for spending your Saturday night while we sift through this news of today, which there was a little bit of it today, that's for sure. And we have Miguel. Thank you for coming in. Also coming in with Facebook stars. So thank you very much for the support. We really appreciate that very much. So Miguel says, "Sup, fellas? Hope everyone is having a great Saturday." Well, so far my Saturday's been good. Ron, how's your Saturday been?
It's been a good Saturday, Miguel. Again, thank you. In Atlanta, I think we high 82 degrees today, so the weather's been good here in Atlanta, at least for today and hoping into tomorrow. So, but it's been a good Saturday so far. So again, thanks for checking in. We appreciate it.
Yep, great. We got Patrick Wiltsey's coming in already too, so with a comment from Facebook saying, "I really like the lessening of social media interaction." Yeah, definitely. I think the ship is tightening in Broncos country for sure. So thank you for that comment. Thank you for coming in tonight. And we also have Ernie coming in, Big Ern coming in. Hello, Thomas and Rod and Scott Falcon. Go Broncos country only. Of course, Ernie, we're only Broncos country. It's funny. I was just interacting with somebody on Twitter today about who's the second favorite team. There is no second favorite team. It's your favorite team, and then for me anyway, I dislike all the rest. So it's a varying degree of dislike, obviously, Raiders and Chiefs being at the top. But yeah, it's only one favorite. So thank you for reminding us about that. Really appreciate it. So we do have a comment about the center, and I'll see if I can find it. I'm sorry, it was Smitty. Yeah, Smitty 60 is coming in. And he's asking, is this starting center or a backup? So let's jump onto that. We have a familiar name back in Broncos country, Kyle Fuller, but this time it's not a cornerback. It's not a defensive back. It is an offensive lineman. So give me your initial reaction to that, Ron, and I'll jump in and I'll talk about what I think he's here for as well.
Yeah. So, Kyle Fuller, the center from the Seahawks, and of course, there's some familiarity there. Snapping with Russell Wilson at Russell Wilson's tenure in Seattle. So, as far as initial thoughts, it wasn't my first choice or second choice. I think we all kind of know who we wanted to kind of take that mantle, but I'm glad they made a decision to sign a center because, as we know, Thomas, the center position has been, with Lloyd Cushenberry, not taking that next step. We don't know who the backups are going to be. That cupboard is kind of left to be bare as well. So bringing in someone with familiarity like a Kyle Fuller, with that experience, that veteran experience, I think is good. It's solid. Now, of course, is it going to knock the doors off? Is it going to be, knocking the ball out of the park? No, but I think given the coaching with the offensive line coach, Russell Wilson's play and experience and familiarity, it should start to help. And hopefully with the other pieces on the offensive line that have been added, we can start to get consistency from our offensive line.
Absolutely. Yeah. I have really liked the additions. This addition to me is more of a depth position. I wrote something and obviously if you watch our podcast, go check out Mile High Huddle. We have a lot of articles where we kind of get more in depth in some of this stuff. So check it out. But I wrote an article a while back saying they can't go into this season with, Wattenberg being the only real experienced backup, but he wasn't, he's a second year player, so it wasn't experienced. So they had to bring in somebody as at least depth. And I think that's what they did here. But he's also started a little bit. I think he's got 10 games started in his career. So I believe that it is possible that they're bringing him in to also compete with Lloyd Cushenberry. So they're definitely going to see who comes out on top in that. But it's not, like you said, it's not one of those really exciting signings that's, there's our starting center. We don't know who the starting center is going to be. I still think Cushenberry's got kind of the inside track on that. But they definitely needed depth. They got it. He's got experience. He's played in quite a few games. and he started a few games. So he's also, I believe, started or played at guard and center. So he's got that flexibility as well. So I like the signing. It's just like you said, it didn't knock my socks off. Like, whoa, we finally got the starting center here in the Mile High City to watch, kind of thing. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, and as Classify here alluded to here, again, thank you, Classify, for your comment. Appreciate it. The center will most likely be a camp body or possible O-line dead. And again, that's kind of how we're perceiving this Classify of, we want someone familiar with Russ's style, Russ's play, more so for depth. Expect them to even maybe address that more in the draft, the center position. But this more than likely will be addressing the O-line depth on the roster. So.
And we've got David McIlrath coming in. Thank you for being here. David says, good evening, Broncos country. Tom, Ron, Dylan, and Deacon Scott hired at center. And he goes on with Mile High Huddle for life, Denver Broncos for life, Buckham. Yes, absolutely. And Scott's not here today. So, we're trying to run the comments again, which I know it's being here on a Saturday night is tough. So I'm glad that you guys are here and I appreciate it. We also have Michael Ronquillo coming back in saying he bought a Buckham visor. So we got a Buckham visor out there, so you can actually get your your Sean Payton type of hat on, the visor with the Buckham on it. So that's great.
And thanks, Michael. And that, I guess I'm starting to come around with Buckham now. Like I just at first I was like, let me hold on to Let's Ride a little bit, but now I think Buckham is really. I think the sound of Buckham is just better, at least for me. So
it's coming around. But I don't want to get on the bandwagon of these slogans until they back it up on the field.
Yes,
so,
agreed.
Yeah, and we've got Chris Carrillo coming in here. Thank you for being here with this comment. Says hello, Thomas and Ron. Did you see the rumor Minnesota is trying to get Jeudy for a second? Mile High Huddle for life and Buckham. I mean he's been on the block. I guess it's not. I don't see him as being on the training block. I see him as having teams interested in him. I don't think they're actively trying to trade him. If they were, he would have been gone already. I think that there was some teams that made a push for him. I don't think they want to let him go for a second. I think they're asking for a first, and that's why he's not gone. If Minnesota can come in and give them a second and something else, a player of some sort, then they might consider it. But I don't think they're going to let him go for a second. I don't know. What do you think, Ron?
Yeah. So again, thank you, Chris, for your question. We appreciate you as always. So yeah. So there have been many teams. I know New England was out there as being rumored to be wanting Jerry Jeudy, and now more recently Minnesota. And we can see that the Broncos have all the leverage here. It's a first, and if you want something below a first, we're just not going to deal. So I think from the get-go, the Broncos know the value of Jerry Jeudy. And hence, that's why he has not been traded yet. Because honestly, Thomas, I don't think the Broncos want to trade Jerry Jeudy. I mean, look at what Jerry Jeudy has done last year, right? And he now has established himself as the Broncos' number one receiver. Let's just put that out there. I know we have Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick coming back from injury, but the plays last year, we've established Jerry Jeudy as being the number one receiver. So to trade him after the season he's had last year just wouldn't be right. And then, again, the Broncos know the value of Jerry Jeudy. It's a first round or else. So with all these talks and conversations, right, with Minnesota, with New England, I just don't see it happening because it would be more valuable for the Denver Broncos to keep Jerry Jeudy than to trade him.
Yeah, absolutely. And before I jump into my thoughts on that, I'm just going to say hello to FPL Dalmatian. I think that's what it says. I don't have my glasses on. I have to have reading glasses now. It's pathetic. I'm telling you, I went through my whole life with 20/20 vision easily. And then all of a sudden I'm like, I need my reading glasses. But so welcome, FPL. Appreciate it. He says, hey, all relatively new Broncos and NFL fan here from Northwest UK. Nice. Well, we appreciate you being here. And yeah, we've been Broncos fans for a long time. I've been a Broncos fan since the very early 80s. So hopefully we can get your current needs of Broncos information solved, as well as some old school stuff. So Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for being here. We love it when other people come from or when people come in from other countries and whatnot. So thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Yeah. So
Yeah.
we what I have to say about trading Jeudy, I don't think they want to. I think they'll listen to it and someone knocks their socks off. Absolutely. But what I and people and I will say that people have been kind of saying, oh well, they brought in Callaway, they brought in some receivers. These guys aren't that come in
Yeah.
are not going to supplant Sutton
Right.
or Jeudy or Patrick at this point
Mhm.
because they're short deals, right? They're the one that just happened with Callaway was 1 year deal. He's not the future. They brought him in. He's definitely going to take over probably for KJ Hamler.
Mhm.
They just can't right now with KJ Hamler's injury, with the uncertainty around
Mhm.
Patrick coming back after his injury.
Mhm.
I don't think they want to let him go. But like I said, if it was a knock your socks off kind of deal, they would. But a second rounder, I don't think it's going to happen. We got a question coming in from Patrick Wiltsey saying, what about orange and blue merch? Yeah, we don't have it yet. This is a fairly new show, so there's no merchandise yet. But yeah, it'd be great to have it. A little orange and blue view on a hat would sure be nice. I'd wear it to, definitely wear it on the show. And yeah, hopefully that's coming soon. That would be great. And once we get going a little bit, more on the show and start bringing in more, more fans of the show, I'm sure we'll offer that up. So thank you for that, Patrick. We
Yeah.
really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Patrick, and we'll run that by our boss man here just to make sure. But yeah, that's a good idea. So again, as Thomas mentioned, as we start to have more episodes, as we get more in depth, we'll definitely consider more items to the merch store. So
Yeah,
thank you
and
for
we
your
got
thoughts.
Chris Krill coming back in saying Broncos country is not a geographical area; it's a state of mind. So don't forget that's the kind of the motto here at Mile High Huddle. We have fans all over the world, and it is really nice. And we also have David's come back. He's been fan since the '60s.
60s.
That's
Hmm.
amazing. That wow. It's incredible to be a fan of something for that long, and you got to see, players that we only can think about, that we research for me anyway, like from '60s players. You get to see, Floyd Little. You get to see,
Right.
hopefully, you got to see Tombstone and names like that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's jump back to the coaches, right? Let's jump back to the coaches a little bit. What we heard was not only did we bring in Jamar Cain, or the Broncos brought in Jamar Cain, we also saw them hire a familiar face to Sean Payton, which was Joe Vitt, who has been retired for a couple years.
Mhm.
I can't believe he has been in the NFL coaching for so long. 1979. That is a long time. Very familiar with Sean Payton, and he coaxed him back to the NFL as a defensive. I can't remember his exact title, but like a defensive assistant or something like that.
Yep.
He's not defensive coordinator or anything. But what are your initial thoughts on getting Joe Vitt back?
Yeah, it's as you're mentioning these names and how long they've been coaching, these these folks have been coaching longer before I've even been a thought, right? So it's that's funny, but yeah, Joe Vitt. So it's I like the hire, right? Kind of learning about a retirement. So I think his last stint was with the Jets back in 2020. So of course the familiarity as assistant head coach. I believe he was the assistant head coach while Sean Payton was out on suspension. I think back in 2012. So of course the familiarity there as the linebackers coach with the New Orleans Saints. Made multiple stops right after he was let go from the Saints. And so again, I like this hire as well. Veteran presence, lots of experience, familiarity with Sean Payton. Hopefully we can get with him and then the Jamar Cain hire the best out of our linebackers. And I think this could also be a good win for Denver. So, I'm all about experience, and that's what Sean Payton obviously is about as well. So bringing those folks that can get the best out of their players, I'm all for it. I'm all for it, Thomas.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ernie has another great comment here. How about Denver Broncos country only, DBCO? That's a good. We should do that. That's a motto that it doesn't matter if you're winning or losing, you can still say it, right? You can always say that if you're a fan of Denver Broncos. That's a great
Yes.
idea. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for that comment. I really appreciate you being here always, as always. So yeah, my thoughts on Vitt is it's one of those coaches that he brought in that he didn't have to bring in, right? It's like it's kind of a familiar face to add a little bit more to that coaching group, a little bit more,
Mhm.
obviously more experience, because he did bring in some younger guys. So I really like it. Also, we remember he's been an interim head coach 2 times. One of them was when Sean Payton was suspended. So he had not, it's not just years of experience. He has experience being a head coach and kind of running that team. And they weren't too bad, when he was out for that year. So he held the ship together. It was a co-intern interim, I believe, Joe Vitt and another coach. But yeah, I think the experience that he brings is going to help some of the younger crew. And Sean Payton's really done that. He brought in Westhoff. That's a very experienced coach. Brought him in as a assistant head coach, but to help with the special team. So you got another guy that's coming in to hopefully help Vance Joseph up his game. Because I'll tell you, when they hired Vance Joseph, I was a little disappointed. I didn't think that Vance Joseph was the right choice. And it kind of felt like, well, we're kind of down to where we have to pick somebody here, and Vance Joseph is maybe the top one of those that are left. So I was a little disappointed, but hopefully with the hiring of Joe Vitt, that will help him do a little game planning, maybe some in-game management. Who knows? I don't know what he will offer to Vance Joseph, but hopefully it will up his game somewhat. I don't know what your feelings really are on Vance Joseph, but hopefully that will help.
Yeah, with Vance Jones, I think I'm with you as well. Initially, you know, bringing back a familiar face, maybe a face that Broncos fans don't want to see. um,
Right.
but you, I guess a part of me is okay with the Vance Joseph move for a few reasons, and let me kind of explain myself here. So I look back at, I guess the first reason is the 2 games when we played the Chiefs when he was the coach. We actually somewhat kept those games somewhat close and competitive. So I think with that experience, that we should maybe see some of that again, some of those close call games with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes in the division. So that's something to somewhat hang your hat on, just a little bit. And then secondly, what Sean Payton has done to surround Vance Joseph. And I think that's where we should be encouraged of, we have Vance Joseph, but there's some familiarity, as we mentioned, right, with Jamar Cain, with Joe Vitt, some of these other defensive assistants. So hiring those folks with Vance Joseph, we hope should help this defense get or stay at the level that we know them to be. So, I think we shouldn't all say that, we don't like the Vance Joseph hire. And again, I see where some folks are coming from, you know, in some regard, but we have to look at what he's done when he was in Denver with the new coaches that Sean Payton has hired, and at least somewhat be encouraged. So that again, that's my take. Kind of like a glass half empty, glass half full.
Keep it positive. Stay
Yes,
positive. Yeah,
yes,
optimism.
yes.
Optimism. I'm just going to grab this one comment here real quick because I love talking about old school. I have the Legends of Mile High show on Friday. We got Rush Jordan coming and saying, asking if we remember Craig Morton, go Broncos. Yes, I do. Craig Morton was, a Dallas Cowboy quarterback for a long time, went to the Giants and then came to the Broncos and got them over the hump. They hadn't gone to the playoffs. He was that quarterback that came in and got them over the hump, really. Obviously, the defense, Orange Crush, was the mainstay in 1977 in that Super Bowl run and whatnot. Morton had a terrible, terrible Super Bowl in 1977. So too many turnovers. They turned over 8 times that game, which was there's no way you can come back from that. But yes, I remember Craig Morton. But one thing that I will say, Craig Morton, his 1981 season was an incredible season. At aged quarterback, I think he was like 37, 38 at the time. He came in, had an amazing season, was like in the running for MVP. So yeah, I remember Craig Morton, and he really helped the Broncos kind of get over that hump. And then from then on, you saw this Broncos team really start to win. So yeah, thank you for that comment. I appreciate it. That's fun.
Yeah, that is good. And then we have Chris here. Chris Grillo. Thank you, Chris, for your comment here. I appreciate it. He says Vance brings great pressure if we have a cornerback opposite PS2 that can cover. We will be okay. That's the problem VJ had in Arizona. No help to cover wide receivers. And Chris, you hit the nail right on the head, Chris. It's and I think that what he had in Denver at the time, right? We had solid corners with that pressure up front with Von Miller, right? So, and I think that's kind of where the difference is with the Denver Broncos defense versus the Arizona Cardinals defense, right? Arizona Cardinals aren't, they have good pieces in some positions, but you know, when you're looking at it from a totality perspective on the entire defense from Denver versus Arizona, Denver has way more skilled players. And I think if Randy Gregory can stay healthy with Baron Browning, and maybe if they add another pass rusher, Jonathan Cooper coming in rotational, and then of course we have Damari Mathis with PS2 and K1 Williams, I think that should be good enough, for the pressure to come up front with those folks on the back end holding up. So you have to look at it from the talent level as well, Chris. And I think that's kind of where you and I agree of Arizona didn't have the talent on the defensive side like Denver does. And now coming to Denver with, you know, some different players here for Van Joseph, but still skilled, hopefully with that edge pressure coming up, that should help on the back end to help solidify our defense.
Yeah. I'm high on Mathis. I think him opposite PS2 with Williams in as the nickelback is a solid trio of defensive backs, in my opinion. And then also they've added some depth pieces, so I think they're okay. It would be great to have another star like the no-fly zone with Chris Harris Jr. and Aqib Talib, and you have this really star-studded defensive secondary. But like I was impressed. I actually was kind of down on the Mathis pick at first, just because cornerbacks taken that late, they very rarely pan out. But he came in as a rookie. He had his growing pains, but by the end of the season, he was playing really well. So I actually think that he's going to step in and become a pretty solid corner opposite of PS2. Mm-hmm. And I also think that the biggest issue is health. If they can stay healthy, I think that you're going to see a much better defense down the stretch than we saw. I think we saw a great defense early on, and then we saw them fall because of all the injuries. And of course, they traded away Bradley Chubb. So, but let's talk about the defense a little bit, because we just saw them bring in a defensive lineman coach to kind of help with the pass rush. I think there's a little bit of a hole left still on the defensive line that they need to address. I think they need to address it before the draft. What are your thoughts before I jump in? What are your thoughts on the defensive line? Do you think that they have an adequate line ready to go, or do you think they need to add another piece?
No, I think we need another piece or two on the defensive line. We probably just start exploring some of those mid-tier players on the defensive line. And I know there was a name floated out there, Shelby Harris. Maybe there's a possible reunion. Maybe for him to come back. Yeah. But we definitely need to look at least one more player on the defensive line. And not only that, Thomas, I'm worried about depth. And I know they'll probably address depth in the draft. I know there have been a few like defensive tackles that I've been keeping my eye on in the draft. But we can definitely stand to use at least one more player via free agency, because I don't think it's a defensive line that's ready to just up and go right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they need to bring in somebody else experienced, because they brought in Zach Allen to replace Draymond Jones, but people forget that Deshaun Williams was the starter also, and he's gone. He went to Carolina. Yeah. So they have DJ Jones. I love DJ Jones. I like Zach Allen quite a bit. And opposite him is Mike Purcell, probably. Yeah. But there's been talk about him being a cap casualty to get some space. He's growing a little bit older. He has not been the same player he was back in 2019. And then even that, though, behind those three, it's a bunch of young guys, two second-year players, other players who are real fringe type players. I think they need to I'd like them to bring in someone with experience, just like they did really on the offensive line that we saw with the center. Bring somebody in with experience who maybe is getting a little long in the tooth, but can be part of that rotation. And that is what they still have left to do along those lines. I think Akeem Hicks is still out there. That could be somebody that they could target. I know people are calling for Shelby Harris again. There's a few people out there still that can fill in that rotation. And let's face it, if they're not a starter, they're still playing quite a bit. I mean, you rotate defensive linemen. So I think that they need to do that. And speaking of defensive linemen, we got Ernie coming in with Tombstone Jackson, man, an incredible man. If we could have reincarnated Tombstone Jackson on the defensive line, it would be amazing. It's funny, Tombstone Jackson was a throw-in at a trade. Like he got thrown in, traded from the Raiders. It was like an afterthought that they put him at linebacker instead of defensive line. And he ended up, being one of the greatest defensive players for a 3-year period. It was amazing. But yeah, we kind of fleeced the Raiders for that. So it was, that was awesome. But yeah, Tombstone, incredible player. Probably could be a Hall of Famer. I'm trying to grab this comment here. Well, there we go. Yeah, we got a comment coming in. Zebulon Omega Kevin Lind. That's quite a name. Awesome. Thanks for coming in, Kevin. Appreciate it. It says Vance and the team really needs Bonito to become the pass rush stud he could be. Worried he's going to be a complete bust pick. And I'm worried about it too. Really. I really am. He does have to develop his game. Right now, he's a pass rush, in my mind, a pass rush specialist only. At this point in his career. And when he was out on the field, he didn't make a huge difference. What do you think about this comment here coming in from Kevin?
And thank you, Zebulon. Omega Kevin, we appreciate it. And I agree, Thomas, and I agree with you here, Zebulon. It's, and I think that's why they brought in the Jamar Cain, right? There's a familiarity from the University of Oklahoma to bring more of a presence from a pass rush perspective. And we know how the Vance Joseph defense is. It's based on a lot of that pressure generated up front. So he can be that. We just hope that this new coaching staff can kind of get the best out of him. Now, with the running, stopping the run, that's kind of where it's been hit or miss, more so miss. So that's kind of where I'm in the lane of it may be more of a bust, but I'm with you. That's a big concern of mine. But with the right coaching here, Zebulon, let's see what this coaching staff can do to help Bonito at least be more than serviceable, more than average to get this defense back to where it needs to be. Because you're right, they're flashes. We've seen flashes. We even saw them at University of Oklahoma. And we saw some bits and pieces there last year, but let's just hope that this coaching staff can kind of get the best out of him.
Yeah, absolutely. Gary Palmer coming in with Super Chat. Thank you so much for the support. Your generosity is very, very much appreciated.
Thank you, Gary.
And I'm sorry that I'm breaking up. I feel bad. I made a mistake getting this mic. I think, I don't know. I might have to upgrade because it does give me difficulty. So I apologize. I hope I'm sounding more clear now. But he says, hey, Thomas and Ron, came in late. Can you recap the hires briefly? Yeah. So we're talking about 2 hires basically, and that is Jamar Cain. He's going to be the pass rush specialist. He spent 10 seasons in college coaching. He was a player in college as well, but he's been coaching the defensive line for the most part through his college coaching career. So he's joined. He was at LSU, and before that he was at Oklahoma. So he has some familiarity with Bonito. Played or coached while he was playing there. And then the familiar name to Sean Payton, Joe Vitt. He had retired. He's been out of the NFL for a couple of years. Been in the NFL as a coach in 1979, so he's got tons of experience. He was hired as well today as an offensive consultant or something, not exactly, or defensive consultant. Sorry. I'm not exactly sure what his title really is, but it's something of that nature. He's not defensive coordinator or anything because that's already been hired with Vance Joseph. So another one of those older, familiar faces that he brought in, just like Mike Westhoff, to help some of the younger coaches, is my guess, and maybe help Vance Joseph. But yeah, appreciate you coming in. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Gary. And I would say from the Joe Vitt, to add on to what you were saying, Thomas, it's probably more of a just the experienced veteran, the assistant head coach for some consulting, right? So that's kind of where I see the Joe Vitt, since you mentioned, right, that they already have the hires going. But
yeah. And we got Lawrence coming in. Thank you for being here, Lawrence. It's nice to see you, Lawrence.
thank you, Lawrence.
Again, appreciate you being here and the support that you give us. And he says, hey, guys, you guys need to do a collab with the contractor hat from Easy Home. I'm not really sure what that is, but this sounds awesome. Because I want one of your hats, but the functionality of this hat makes it hard to not want to wear all the time. Check it out. It's basically a smart hat from a small business owner. I'll have to check it out. Yeah, that would be cool. I don't know if we could do that. I don't know the rules of collabing with sports and them, but yeah, that's a good idea. Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you, Lawrence. We'll look into that for sure. And then Dan comes in here. Thank you, Dan Smoot. We appreciate you. Dan says Bonito needs physical improvement to at least be serviceable against the run. Surprised how small he appeared. And Dan, you're right. You're right on the money. It's, again, I'm not so worried about the pass rushing capabilities because, again, we didn't maybe see that a lot this past season, but we know it's in him, and we saw that in Oklahoma. He needs to get the size right. He needs to bulk up a little bit because he is very small, and trying to stop the run against, these these big O linemen with these big running backs, it's that the body can't take it. So that's where my concern is. And that's where I think there was another comment earlier about him potentially being in the bust column, because it's, the pass rushing's there, but what about the rest? Right? And you need to be able, as a defender, to be versatile. And if you're lacking with the size and not able to stop the run, then that could definitely be a cause for concern.
Yeah, and I'll just jump in here and say that I think what will really help Bonito, obviously getting stronger and whatnot, but is the health of the other players. If Browning and Gregory can stay healthy and Bonito can come in and be that pass rush guy, that specialist to spell them, that's going to help him the most. Having to throw him out there to the Wolves in his rookie season because of injuries, trying to hold up, they could tell that he wasn't doing it, so they had to pull him out and, had Jonathan Cooper in there more often because he held up a little bit better. So I think health will help tremendously as he starts to build his repertoire of moves and as he starts to get used to the NFL game. And I think that will help tremendously. So that's my thoughts. I think it will. I think he will come around because he does have talent. We saw it in preseason. I didn't see it in the regular season as well. I mean, I saw some, but in preseason he definitely came on, and I liked it a lot. But yeah, he needs to show a little bit more. I got to grab this comment. It's perfect. From Dave Bristol. After watching last year's hype/crash, I'm endorsing the World War II general who, upon arrival in South Pacific, said, "When we've done some fighting, we'll do some talking." And that's my motto too. I don't want any slogans yet. No slogans. Just go win, and then we can rub slogans in people's faces. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. And we got Hollywood Blue coming in saying, "I'm loving this guy." I think she means guys. I'm loving this, guys. New fan alert. Well, thank you. We really appreciate all the fans here, and I'm glad that you're here. We both are. Thank you for coming in. Really, we appreciate everybody jumping in because this is why we're here, to talk and try and inform and also have an interaction with everybody here. So thank you very much.
We thank you there, Hollywood. We appreciate it.
And we have Lawrence Rivera coming back in with Facebook stars. So again, Lawrence, we appreciate you so much. Thank you for being here. You're on these shows often. We love seeing you on here, and we really, really do thank you for the support. So thank you for the Facebook stars.
Great. Thanks.
And we got Lloyd Riley saying great hire with Joe Vitt. And I think we're on the same page, Ron. We're pretty excited about the hire.
Yeah, thanks, Lloyd. And yeah, I think again, the experience, the veteran leadership, the familiarity with Sean Payton would definitely help on the defensive side of the ball, especially with the linebackers. Again, I know we have mentioned he did the linebacking coaching for the New Orleans Saints. The last stint was with the Jets, I think back in 2020. So I'm encouraged with the hire of Joe Vitt, Lloyd, and hopefully with the other members on staff and Vance Joseph, we can see this defense at least remain consistent and play at a high level. So, but yeah, I think I agree with you. It's definitely a good hire for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And we got a question, Christopher Kramer coming in asking what's the center's name we got. We did
Kyle
start out
Fuller.
kind of talking about it. Kyle Fuller. It's the same name of the Broncos country cornerback that we had for a little while that didn't pan out. But yeah, Kyle Fuller, not a starter. He has started. He has started in the past, but he's coming in maybe to, push Cushenberry, fight for that job. We'll see, but definitely depth, which I'm glad because they needed it. We've talked about that. So that's who it was. So thank you for coming in.
Yes. And we have Rip Tie. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. He's like, is it preseason yet? Well, not yet, but we still got a little while before that, Rip Tie. But, I think with all the moves, we can feel optimistic when preseason does come that we'll see most of these players start to take the field. So I'm ready for preseason, and I'm pretty sure the rest of you guys are. So, once that time comes in August, let's see what we got. I'm ready to rock and roll.
I'm ready for it too. I can't wait for football season to start again. But we still have the off season. We still have the draft, which I've always loved the draft. I've been so busy this year. I haven't been able to get into the draft as much as I used to, which kind of stinks. But I'm ready to watch it. It's exciting. I mean, they do the NFL draft is the best draft out there. I don't, even with the NBA lottery, the NFL draft is the best. So I'm going to grab this other comment from Kevin coming back in saying, I can't imagine what it's like for the rookies last year, trying to learn the playbook, etc. If the vets struggled that much, I expect a lot of improvement from nearly everyone. And that's true. They didn't have time to gel. They got held out of preseason for the most part, the starters, and I was at camp. They weren't doing a lot of physical hitting and things like that. So they kind of were behind the eight ball, so to speak, when they started the season. And then it kind of played out. You saw it. They looked like they were rusty coming out. And then of course, health issues started. So yeah, I'm with you. It's going to be a different offseason, a different training camp, a different preseason this year with Sean Payton.
Yes. Thank you, Kevin, for the comment. And I agree 100%, Thomas. And you hit the nail right in the head as far as the reason was they didn't play in the preseason games.
Yeah.
And that is your time to, iron out the kinks, make sure everyone's on the same page, get everybody learning the playbook. So with new coaching, with Sean Payton already said they're going to play in the preseason. So that's something we don't have to worry about. And once they get those reps, get familiarity with the new scheme, we should start to see everybody get to learn that playbook. There should be some cohesion, Kevin, and we should start to see a better, offense and defense, but we should start to see a better team. But definitely that was kind of what was holding them back. Was I feel as though one of the big reasons why that they didn't learn the playbook, get time to mesh, was because they just missed that time in the preseason playing together.
Yeah, and not only that, it was when you're not playing a little bit in the preseason, you're getting rotation in correctly. There's a lot of little nuanced pieces that they missed out on, like when they're putting in one of these rookies to fill in with a starter, what they're going to look like. They missed all of that. There was very few starters, so you weren't seeing Bonito coming in with Randy Gregory on the other side, or with, Bradley Chubb that often. You didn't see that. You didn't see how they were going to mesh together. And some of these, the D-line rotation and especially the offensive line, they really missed out on that cohesiveness and the rotation and things like that. So I think it was, even though when I heard that they were going to do that, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Keep people from being injured. But then they came in and got injured anyway. So yeah, it didn't matter. I hope they play a little bit more in the preseason. I think they will. Obviously, Sean Payton has already come out and said that they are going to play in the preseason. So I think it's going to be a huge benefit. And I hope that they strike it rich in the draft and they get some rookies who can actually step in and play a little bit. That would be great. Yeah. But I feel like they've done a good job so far. They still have that piece on the defensive line that we talked about earlier to bring in. But otherwise, I think they've brought in some good depth and some good veteran starters to really, really try and solidify all of those weaknesses on the team.
Yep, I agree. And we can go to the draft, or the Broncos are going to the draft now with kind of BPA at the top of the board, right? It's again, I know there are a few holes in certain positions that you may want to prioritize, but I would say best player available. We're not picking to the third round anyway, so that might be something where we'd have to start, or the Broncos would have to start looking at BPA. And I would say there are lots of options on the defensive line. Maybe another corner, maybe some O linemen for depth. So there are a couple of different avenues that the Broncos can definitely consider as they're moving in the draft.
Absolutely. So, well, it's been 45 minutes here, so we're going to start to wind down the show. It's a Saturday night. We appreciate everybody being here. If there's any last second comments, I'm going to check again. We're doing this without Scott here to kind of grab the comments. So if we missed some of your comments, we apologize. It really is hard to keep track. It's surprising how hard it is to keep track of the comments as they go flying by. So if we missed you, sorry, but thank you so much for all your support and for being here tonight, interacting with us. I think we actually have a great team to look forward to this year.
Yes.
And I'm starting to get excited. And once camp starts and I see what happens, when I start to see preseason, I think my excitement level is going to go up. But again, I'm going to kind of dial it back. So, and Michael, thank you again for coming in, man. We appreciate you being here so much. He says Sean Payton is putting his own stamp on the Broncos team, and that is for sure.
Yes.
Ron, what are your thoughts?
Yes. Again, Michael, we appreciate your support as always. Thank you very much. And you're absolutely correct. We saw it from when the free agent period started. His stamp was there. We as fans knew that offensive line was a glaring need. And Sean Payton knew that as well. So out of the gates with Ben Powers, with McGlinchey, we had to address the offensive line, and bringing in those other key players for depth. We can definitely see Sean Payton's imprint on this team. So I'm with you there, and hopefully, Michael, with the signings and free agency, we should start to see a better team with this scheme.
Absolutely. Sunny days. Thank you for being here. It's kind of winding down the show. Some comments. We'll grab a couple as we're heading out, but great show. Appreciate you all you do. And make sure you hit the like. And definitely, thank you so much. We got, when Weebs reacts saying need some good mojo this season. Absolutely. Definitely need that. And then, of course, we've got Michael coming in, as always. Yeah, it's amazing. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
coming
Michael.
in, Facebook stars with support to end the show. Man, we can't thank you enough, Mike. I know I say it every time when you're on here, but their words aren't there for me to really show my appreciation for you. So again, thank you so much. He says, great show tonight, Thomas Hall and Ron White on the Orange and Blue View. Go Broncos, buck 'em. Why don't you close us out, Ron? Any last final thoughts?
Yeah. So again, with the coaching, these new coaching moves, on the defensive side, at least, the Broncos have gotten better. And to kind of echo what Thomas said and many of you guys have said in the chat, these moves should help the Broncos be a better team. Looking forward to going into more of the offseason with the draft and training camp coming up. So I'm looking forward to it. Again, it's that cautious optimism. I'm gonna use that phrase periodically as we move forward through this. But with the signings, we can definitely see that this team is starting to take a turn or trending into the right direction. So hopefully, if we can kind of continue with that cautious optimism, we should start to see us getting back to the winning ways.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Thanks for being here, Ron, with me. I appreciate it. It's Saturday night, but it's fun, right?
And it goes by so quickly. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you. And Hollywood Blue closing us out saying, love you, Ron and Tom. And we appreciate everybody here. So thank you. We're going to let you guys get to your Saturday night. Have a great weekend, and we will see you next week on Orange and Blue View. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Have a great night.